bought him a Superman outfit with a cape and everything. It was a mistake, but he just loved being Superman. He'd do it, but unfortunately, he thought he could jump from anything. So he would start to jump from the Chesterfield, and you'd always have to run and catch him. So when you were there, that's fine. But there was a few challenges where he had to learn he couldn't just do it by himself. But in this process, up to the third year, this is the first 1.5 years of Mars is a half a cycle of Jupiter. So by the third year, it's not just put the energy out, see how people react, stand up, run, do things, and see how people react. By the third year, you get the second opposition of Mars. So you're not only you're standing up at one, but you're running and you're doing things, but you can get into things, you can be throwing things around, you can be hurting things, you can be hitting things. So by 3, there's a need to understand this is right, that's wrong. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't hurt people, you can't hurt your brother, you have to, there's a different type of learning that has to come in. And a different understanding comes in on the Mars cycle. The opposition comes in. My point here is that even at 3, kids are so different. There's certain similar things going on for everyone around the same age. But when you're looking at it day to day, wow, everyone's got their unique puzzles, their strengths, their weaknesses, their way of trying to do their own thing when they're just still growing up and they're not able to do everything. As soon as you try and stop a 2-year-old, or especially a 3-year-old, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're going to have a fight. And they're going to have to learn repercussions of negative energy. Even at 3, you can do. And usually, as a parent, you're trying to run around so you keep them busy enough that they're still working with the positive implications and learn to bypass the negative. But they still have to learn this. So, if by 2 or 3, often you're doing things, and maybe another kid comes in, other things happen. They change the process. From 3 to 4. You're running around the house, you're doing things, you're being too active to be hard to keep up with. You need someone needs to be watching you around all the time. They need to take you outside to be watched. This whole 2 to 4 is you're starting to run into the outside world and do things. By 3 to 4, without the diaper, and by then you're probably potty trained and all these things. So 3 to 4, you're starting to, I want to run, I want to do this, I want to do what everyone else is doing. Of course, you can't just copy and do everything. You just go out and try things. And parents are guiding it or not guiding it. And you get some experiences you develop. Not so by 4, you're at the end of the second cycle. Not only can you stand up, you're walking, you can do things. Now you start trying to figure out what more you can do, what you can do, what you can't do, what's worth doing, what's not worth doing. It's really about still development of muscles, courage, strength, adrenaline, energy. But I mean, as we're growing up more and more, our parents want to put us in front of the computer or on a web or on watching something so that you're totally absorbed in walking and you're not being so physical, because that's disturbing everybody. So everybody gets caught very early. Most people get caught very early going into electronics, watching things, displacing their energy, their impatience, and slowing it down. Not exactly healthy. We grew up, there was no TV. There was a radio sometimes, but we didn't listen to radio. It was more, we got up. If you're bored, you had to make some mischief. You had to do something to solve it. You're sitting at home alone. If you got a brother, so you're still sitting, you're all bored. And sooner within a few minutes, somebody starts something. And whether it's a fight or a game or something, we do things would get done. There's not that much time to get bored because something gets instigated. But you can begin to see the effects of the world that we're growing into and what we're exposed to and the cost of it. This third cycle of Mars is your preparation to be in grade school, 4 to 6. So it's your preschool years, you're going out, you're doing things with others. Good or bad, you find out, like, if someone's been autistic, they may not have the sense of boundaries, Saturn, and they may hurt people with it, not realize what they're doing is hurting people. They may throw things, they may not have a sense of that control. So it gets really, by the time you got to in your third cycle, it's really different. You're all the kids are the same, but they're all very different with specific puzzles for what they can do and can't do. So you're really by 5, you're really running into your kindergarten, preschool, really 4 and 5, but it's steadily how much you can do. It's not about studying, but being able to be active and do things and work with others in conjunction with others, get things. And by 6, it's half a Jupiter cycle, so you have to learn that it's not all about you. There's other people doing things too. How do you align? When can you be quiet? When not? So many things to learn through this. So I'll just put this down here. So with the 6, okay, so then down here. So by the end of 3 years, let's see, where's it? 3 years. Yeah, so it's about a month and a bit, 40 days. Mars is less than a 2-year cycle. So by the time you get through 6 years, it actually comes back to conjunct itself about 4 months earlier. And at 6 years, the conjunction of Mars comes about 4 months earlier. It depends if it's retrograde or other thing, what happened, but usually it's about that's 4 months earlier. By the time you get to 12, it really ends up being 6 to 12. 12 is almost 8 months earlier. So 11 years, 4 months is really, it starts spinning off the cycle of differentiating as we go along. So 6 to 8, grade 1 and 2, grade 2 or 3, depending where you come in, but generally 1 and 2. You got energy, you're trying to do things, you got a new energy, you're going to school, and you're trying to see all the things you can do or can't do. And your teachers are having to put up with that or try to direct that or channel that. You're making things happen, and you're running into, by 7, by the time you finish 1 year in school, you kind of understand some of the routine, and you can't push so much or not push so much. And there's a different adjustment. Like the understanding of the opposition, you run into a limit of how much you can do. And then you're struggling to realign, you're having to realign it and use your energy, but you can't just use it as blatantly. You're having to assess it first. There's some limits you have to work around, some things you can't do. So by the end of year 1, you know the limits of school and teachers, but you get used to the time limits of the class, what you can do in class, what you do out of class. And a good program has school, has gym, has outdoor things, has breaking, not gym, but you're going out, you're doing things, you're running, it has some physical activities in the midst of the school year. That's a school day. But you're still going 6 to 8 years. And it's these 2-year phases, by the time you're 8 years old, you've grown up, you've stood up, you've learned to walk, you've got your muscles, you've been around the house, you've got out of the house, you're going to school. But boy, people's parents treat different kids differently. They push, some people push them, some people don't. You run into all the different types of energy in that first year in school, and these first 2 years of school. And again, people are really different. Some of them grow up really inhibited, reserved, cautious. Some of them grown up violent. Some grown up with explosions or disruptions or fear around them. It's according to the natal chart how you go through these phases. And these phases, these experiences that you get feed into the Jupiter wisdom that you gain from your experiences. So at 6 years old, you've had 3 Mars cycles that have fed your understanding of what life's about as you start going into school from 6 to 12, your primary school. And with that understanding guiding you for what you can or can't do, good understanding, and in difficult families, misunderstanding or wrong understanding, and some things that you understand right, some things you don't. All of that understanding begins to affect your guide. So at 6 years, the Jupiter's affecting your Mars, and you're starting to have a little more sense of other people, other things, and different wisdom kicks in. You're learning new things and comparing to others. So Mars is also competitive. You're seeing what I'm doing this. You're seeing what other people can do. You find out if you're strong or weak or whatever, big or small, whatever is needed at different as you start getting into school. So by the time you get to school, there's going to be the strong bullying kids. There's going to be the weak, fragile kids. There's going to be in-between kids. Hyper-coordinated, hyperactive, underactive. There's going to be such a whole mix of them. The early school teachers are going to run across this very distinctly. But we're all still generally going through about the same phases in our life, but the specifics are really different. What brings up at any of these turning points, there's stress and there's pressure to make you more active or make you active with conditions at the opposition. And the conditions start to direct that next half of the cycle. Then you got 8 years old. By 8, you don't want to be a kid anymore. By 8, you want to do that. You're trying to extend and do more. You're still not being that social. You got friends at school. You got the backyard, your front yard. You're going around doing things, but you're playing games. You're running around. You're throwing balls. You're doing things like you're kicking a soccer ball around. You're playing dolls. It starts being more social, and a lot of more learning is coming in. But if there's still a physical growth going on here, and dealing with different sizes and shapes and physicalities as is going on, different energy levels, you still want to get experience. But you're running across more parents, more teachers, people directing your energies to what you can or can't get. This is very different if you're brought up in a very rich, protected home, where you're brought up on the street, off on the streets with parents that are hardly together. There's such a wide spectrum of what kind of experiences you have at these ages. And the understanding that comes from it, both the Saturn and without the discipline of the parent, there's not the discipline to build up the self-discipline for oneself. And without the guidance of a parent and the understanding of this is better, that's not, you don't get the wisdom to realize the value of doing without or that you have to. So these are time periods and usually disruptions, these times are temperamental explosions, disruptions, falls, bumps, bruises, cuts. Like whenever Mars is making an aspect to itself, or any aspect, it's generally going to last 3 days to a week, max. It's going to be within that degree or so, within that short time. That's when there's the critical period, accident prone. If someone's fragile, accident prone or klutzy, they could have klutzy things happen at every one of these bends as they're growing up. If someone's super aggressive, they could have over aggressive things, bullying things. If someone is weak, they could have not being able to do things. But the energy's there. It's going to blow out. It's going to implode in. It's going to affect. And it comes out as rashes, fevers, burns, cuts, blow-ups, breaking things, throwing things, anger. All of these things are just expressions of energy. And they accumulate differently, but they become the foundation of our experience. Our standing up, our running, our doing things, our starting to walk with other people, run with other people. At 8, you want to do things, but you're still a little too. Well, nowadays people wouldn't necessarily let an 8 to 10-year-old go to school. You can go, but you need to go with somebody. Same with certainly between 6 and 8. In my life, I had to walk 10 blocks to school or 8 blocks to school when I was 6 years old by myself, even in the wintertime. So the world's changed. Wouldn't let someone do that now.